Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm still trying to figure out how to get the video to work. That's Do we have people here that I could call the meeting to order?
Yeah, I'm here. Jim Smith.
And Sharon Johnson's here.
Sherry Allensbach is here. I thought Wanda logged on, but I don't see her.
I'm here, but go ahead, Glenn, because I'm having connection problems where I'm at.
Right, and I don't know why I can't get my video to work. It's being blocked by some, unless you see me.
This is Daryl. We only see your initials popping up when you do Glenn.
We don't see you and we don't see Wanda. Daryl's here.
All right, well, I guess through the meeting I'll see if I can figure out the video part, but I don't want to delay on account of that.
Mhm.
So I'll call tonight's planning and zoning meeting to order. And before making a motion to adopt the agenda, I want to mention that item number 6 has been withdrawn due to it not needing a variance after all.
Correct, and I do have a question about that. I'm wondering if the neighborhood was notified, because we got a notice of the public hearing, but I never got a notice saying it was canceled as far as the neighborhood went.
We don't tend to mail out notices that the public hearing has been canceled. We do post it on the city website and in City Hall. So it was posted per ordinance.
All right, thanks. Just in case somebody asks. Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda minus item number 6.
Sherry Allensbach will move.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay, I'll need to take a roll call on that. On every one of the items tonight, as we did in the past meeting in May. So Glenn made the motion, Sherry seconded, then Sharon. Aye. Tom.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Daryl.
Aye.
Wanda.
Aye.
All right.
Next item is the approval of minutes. Any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll second Sharon Johnson.
All in favor, say aye. with a roll call vote from Stephanie.
Glenn,
Aye.
Sherry,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Daryl.
Aye.
Right, motion passes. Next item is a public hearing for an interim use permit keeping of 2 cows at 3221 212th Avenue Northeast.
Staff is requesting Planning Commission recommendation to request City Council approve an interim use permit for the keeping of 2 cows on a property zoned rural residential. Tim Ernst is requesting an IUP for the keeping of 2 beef cows. The property is 13.81 acres and is located in the rural residential zoning district, PID 15 33 23 11 0011. City Code Chapter 10, Article 5, Section 10-151 requires properties with 2 cows provide 3.8 acres of pasture land. Mr. Ernst submitted a site plan showing approximately 4 acres of fenced pasture land. The proposed pasture area, as illustrated in attachment 3, shows the location of the proposed pasture, also depicting that the pasture area meets all setback requirements listed in Chapter 10, Article 5, Section 10-152. Domestic farm animal shelter setbacks, paddocks, and pasture land. There's presently a shelter for the cows, but the applicant expressed to staff that he will place a shelter in the pasture area. City staff is requesting the Planning Commission hold a public hearing and recommend approval to City Council of an IUP for Tim Ernst for the keeping of 2 cows at 3221 212th Avenue with the following conditions. The permit shall expire when the property is sold or non-compliance of IUP conditions. Property owner shall have 30 days to remove the approved cows upon the expiration of the IUP. Conditions of the IUP must be met no later than October 1st, 2020. Failure to meet these conditions will result in the null and void of the IUP. Property may be inspected and evaluated annually by city staff. There will be no other farm animals that are governed by the city ordinance kept on this property without an approved amendment by City Council. And applicant must comply with City Code Section 10, Article 5, farm animals.
I do have an update, by the way. The lean-to is framed in.
Great. As this is a public hearing, I will now open the public hearing and invite any members of the public who would like to address this issue to do so. And Jack, since we can't see whether or not somebody wants to address it, if they aren't, I guess we would need to know that nobody.
Hi, this is Laura McCarthy. I found myself, I was on mute. I do have a question. I live on the property that is east of the proposed pasture. There was reference, in the statement before of a drawing. Is that available and something that could be shared on this WebEx? I got the letter that stated there was this hearing, but I didn't see anything on the website. Is that available?
That would be a question for staff.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute my microphone. It is available on the city website under the Planning Commission packet. I was trying to figure out how to share the, but I don't know. Here's the site plan. If you can see what I'm holding up. The box area on the right side of the image, which is apparently showing up on the left here.
Okay.
This is the fence and pasture.
Okay, and then the shelter, where is the shelter? Then if you,
but
I guess I could go look back and see what's behind the tree line, but if you just point a finger on the picture.
I could assist. The shelter is on the west side of that field. So it's,
Okay, on the
you'll
west
s-
side, and then
yeah,
on the
you'll s-
north, on the south side, the north.
so
or the
if,
southwest.
hold on, can I share my screen? Because I can point at it then. Is it acceptable?
yeah.
If it lets me, come on. There, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I see your letter.
Yep, all right, so the shelter's about, if you can see my cursor, the shelter's about right here.
Okay, all right. And then my other questions are like, the manure pile, comes with cows. And I'm sure their 2 cows isn't gonna, produce a whole lot. And I grew up on a farm and such. But where would that be located? And what are the plans for like just that maintenance, overall maintenance?
Yeah, so the cows would not be year round. They would only be during the spring through summer to fall season. And they would obviously roam the pasture, but there wouldn't be enough output to create a pile.
Okay.
And also, just so you know, we have planted 5 rows of trees here, and we've got some that are, upwards of 8-10 feet. So we're adding additional barrier than the woods that is already there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I can see. They're starting to emerge the height of the trees. So it's kind of, but how many years have been there? Like 3 or 4 years now.
Yep, we've been 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Any other questions?
Chair Terry, can you get the lady's name again and address? She did not list her address for the record.
Right. In fact, yes, this would be a good time to point out that for anyone who's speaking on behalf of any of the public hearings, if you could please, before beginning, state your name and address for the record.
Okay, I can state it right now. I'm Laura McCarthy. I'm at 21260 East Bethel Boulevard.
Thank you. Jack, were there any other members that of the community would like to speak on this?
There are no live attendees at this meeting. Everybody here is virtual.
Oh. All right, then I'll ask the virtual public, if any of you would like to speak on behalf of this topic, please do so. Hearing none, then I'll close.
Tim Ernst here. I just wanted to offer if anyone had any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I think you would find that we're one of the nicest, most well-kept properties in the neighborhood, and we intend to continue to be so.
Great.
Appreciate it. Thanks. You've been pretty good neighbors.
Is there any staff discussion or discussion among planning and zoning members?
Yeah, this is Jim Smith there. I was out at the property on the 18th, and it looks very well kept. And I think the cows will be definitely happy. Looks great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the IUP for Tim Ernest for the keeping of 2 cows at 3221 212th Avenue Northeast with the staff conditions included.
I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, all in favor with Stephanie's voice vote?
Yep. So we have Sherry,
Aye.
Did you say Terry or Sherry? We're both aye, apparently.
Aye, we are.
Sharon?
Did you say Sharon?
Yes.
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Daryl,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and we'll go to council when, Stephanie?
we'll go to council on July 13th.
Terrific. Okay. Next item is a public hearing for an interim use permit for the keeping of 6 chickens at 2100 Deerwood Lane Northeast.
We're requesting the recommendation of approval to city council for an interim use permit for the keeping of up to 6 chickens on a property zoned R1 single family residential. Ashley Anderson is requesting an IUP for the keeping of up to 6 chickens with the permission of property owner. I apologize, I don't know how to pronounce the last name. This property is 0.5 acres and is zoned R1 single family residential, PID 33 33 23 34 0033. Chapter 10, Article 5, Section 10-151J3Q establishes that this half-acre parcel is adequate size for the keeping of chickens, with half an acre being the minimum size for keeping chickens. Chapter 10, Article 5, Section 10-151, it is also stipulated that chickens require 0.01 acres per animal unit, with a minimum area of 2 square feet of floor area per chicken for an enclosed coop and 6 square feet of floor area per chicken in the attached pen. The property has adequate space for the coop and pen area required by ordinance. City staff is requesting the Planning Commission recommend approval to the City Council for an IUP for the keeping of up to 6 chickens for Ashley Anderson at 2100 Deerwood Lane with the following conditions. The permit shall expire when the property is sold or non-compliance of IUP conditions. The property owner shall have 30 days to remove the approved chickens upon the expiration of the IUP. The conditions of the IUP must be met no later than September 1st, 2020. Failure to meet these conditions will result in the null and void of the IUP. The property may be inspected and evaluated annually by city staff. There will be no other farm animals that are governed by the city ordinance kept on this property, and applicants must comply with City Code Section 10, Article 5, farm animals.
All right. Again, this is a public hearing. So at this point, I'll open the public hearing to any members of the public who would care to comment on this. And if so, please state your name and address before your questions or comments. Have to weigh the balance between silence and possible technical issues. But hearing none, I will, at this point, close the public hearing. If I've done that prematurely, we'll open it back up. Any discussion among our members?
Yeah, this is Jim Smith. I was out to the property on the 18th. I didn't go into the yard, but I could see from the west side, I could see the chicken coop in the fenced area. It looked like a nice area for the chickens, and there's a big field behind the property. So personally, I don't see any issues. It looks like a good spot for them.
The fact that there don't seem to be any community members who are neighbors having an issue is good as well. So to speed things along, again, I'll make a motion to accept or approve the interim use permit for keeping up to 6 chickens on the property as designated and with the staff conditions.
I'll
I'll
second.
second Jim
Sharon.
Smith.
All right, so I got Glenn, and then Jim is a second, and then Sherry,
Aye.
Sharon,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Daryl,
Aye.
Wanda.
Aye.
All right,
All right, motion passes, and we'll go to council also July 13th. Next item is number 7, public hearing, a variance request for a reduction of the setback to Coon Lake for a deck at 19315 East Front Boulevard Northeast.
Staff is requesting that we consider, or the Planning Commission consider a recommendation for a variance request for setback reduction from the ordinary high water mark for the placement of a deck. This property is located within the Shoreland Overlay District, and the property is located on Coon Lake. The property is 0.45 acres and is located within R1 Single Family Residential District, PID 2533-23-13-0052. The property owner is proposing a deck, and this deck will encroach upon the 75-foot ordinary high water, herein referred to as the OHW, setback requirement by 12 feet. The existing home is a legal non-conforming structure with a 40-foot setback from Coon Lake. The maximum allowable impervious surface on properties within the Shoreland Overlay District is 25%. This will not be affected by the deck, as stated in the definition of impervious surface as found in City Code Appendix A, Section 57-5, impervious surface. The lot, or the area of a lot above the ordinary high water level, covered with buildings including all appurtenances, driveways, and sidewalks, and similar impervious materials. For the purpose of this section, driveways that have a gravel base shall be considered impervious. Decks that allow drainage through the decking and that do not have a plastic weed barrier or some other material that would impede drainage into the ground, and swimming pool water surface areas shall not be considered impervious. The deck plan submitted depict on the western edge of the deck abutting the chimney, which is approximately 73 feet from the OHW. The proposed deck measures 10 feet by 10 feet with a 4 by 4 foot landing on the southern edge of the deck, making the variance request for a 12-foot reduction to the 75-foot setback for a total of 63-foot setback to the OHW for the placement of this deck. Consideration of a variance requires Planning Commission to consider the 3-factor test for practical difficulties. The first factor is reasonableness. The applicant said that, or the applicant's response for reasonableness is the house has never had a good door on the south side to access the largest part of our yard. Because of the property configuration and the hill on that side of the house, the homeowner needs a deck to access the yard from the porch area safely. It would not be practical to put a door anywhere else on the south side of the house because of the fireplace, 2 sets of interior stairs, and a bedroom make up the remainder of that southern wall. The deck being proposed is less than 75 feet from Coon Lake's water edge, which is why we need a variance. The proposed deck would be 60 to 65 feet from the water. The house is closer to the water at approximately 50 feet, so the new deck will not be as close to the water as the house. The second factor is that the landowner's problem is due to circumstances that are unique to the property and not caused by the landowner. The applicant's response is that the majority of the yard to the south of the house, and yet the homeowner has never had access directly to that side of the yard. The deck is needed because of the slope and drop off of the landscaping around the house that has been there for many years. Steps out of that side would not be safe because of the severe drop and slope of the hill. This is the only safe alternative. The third factor is that a variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. The applicant's response is that this small deck will not change the character of the locality because it is not as close to the water as the house. It is a completely permeable surface, so it will not affect drainage, and we're not changing any landscaping or removing trees. The natural character of the property is being preserved. It will not affect the character or beauty of the lake. This structure is also permitted under Minnesota DNR rules. City staff is requesting that the Planning Commission hold a public hearing and recommend approval of to the City Council for the setback reduction for the construction of a deck with the conditions in the attached resolution.
At this point, we'll open the public hearing to any neighbors or community members who would care to comment, stating your name and address first, if you do have a comment.
Hello, I'm Joan Quady. I'm one of the property owners. This is my husband, Joe Quady. We're the ones applying for the permit if anybody has any questions, or the variance if anyone has any questions.
Thank you. Well, as one would expect, there isn't seeming to be any public comments otherwise. So I'll close the public hearing. Any staff discussion or planning and zoning discussion?
This is Daryl. I just wanted to say it makes sense to approve this variance request, especially seeing as how it's not encroaching further towards the lake, but is going to the side of the property, and the house already extends further towards the lake.
Thank you. I would agree. This seems like one of those things where it's only because of a technical issue that it even needs a variance, but there's nothing about it that is anyway disturbing anything.
This is Sherry. I would agree with that. It does make sense that there's no reason to not, because it does not approach the lake.
Anyone besides me care to make the motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve the request for staff recommendation.
I'll second. Sharon Johnson.
Right, voice vote.
All right. Sherry made the motion. Wanda seconded it. Glenn?
Aye.
Sharon? Aye. Tom?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Daryl?
Aye.
Motion passes, and we'll go to council on July 13th.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
You're welcome. Next item, public hearing for a variance reduction of side yard setback for drain field at 167 Juniper Street Northeast.
Staff is requesting that Planning Commission consider requesting the approval of a septic setback variance of 5 feet per septic setback of 5 feet at 167 Juniper Road on the eastern property line, and a setback reduction of 5 feet from the residence for the installation of a septic drain of a septic tank. Due to the size of drain field necessary to meet the Minnesota Septic Code requirements for the existing home, the setback variance from the residence for the holding tank as well as from the property line for the drain field is required for installation of a compliant system. The setbacks for drain field is established in City Code Chapter 74 Utilities, Section 74-44 Setback Requirements, which refers to the reader to Minnesota Rules Chapter 7080.2150. Under Minnesota Rules Chapter 7080.2150 subpart F, it is noted that infringement on property line setbacks must be made through accepted local procedures. This property is located within the Shoreline Overlay District for Coon Lake, and if this variance is not granted, the only recourse the property owner would have to continue using this property as a residential structure would be through the application for a holding tank. Variances for holding tanks cannot be approved per state requirements if there's space on the property to install a compliant drain field. For the plan submitted by the septic contractor and shown in attachment 3, this variance would allow for a drain field. This septic permit has been reviewed and is ready to be issued upon approval of the setback variance. Consideration of a variance requires Planning Commission to consider a 3-factor test for practical difficulties. The first factor, the test of reasonableness, is addressed as the septic systems are required for a home to be considered habitable. This variance request does not affect the city of East Bethel required setbacks, but a building code requirement that septic tanks and drain fields be placed 10 feet from all property lines and 20 feet from residential structures. The Minnesota Septic Code allows municipalities to grant variances from these setback requirements. The second factor is that the landowner's problem is due to circumstances unique to the property and not caused by the landowner. Due to the lot sizes within the subdivision, setback requirements from wells and residences, and the high water table in this area, the property has limited space for a drain field. As depicted on the site plan submitted by the licensed septic contractor, due to the small lot size, a variance will be needed to be obtained for the tank to encroach on the 10-foot house setback and the drain field to encroach either from the 20-foot house setback or the 10-foot property line setback. The third factor is that the variance would not alter the essential characteristics of the neighborhood. This neighborhood has had a significant number of septic variances issued due to the age of this neighborhood as well as the small lot sizes. With a number of older systems needing to be replaced in this area, this variance request is quite common, and granting this variance will not change the essential character of the Coon Lake Beach neighborhood. Staff recommends holding a public hearing and recommendation for the approval of a 5-foot setback variance from the east property line for the installation of a drain field and a 5-foot setback variance from the residential structure for the installation of a septic tank for 167 Juniper Road.
Thank you, Aaron. This is a public hearing item as well. So at this time, we'll open the public hearing to any neighbors or community members caring to comment on this issue. All right. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any internal discussion?
This is Wanda. It makes sense, and as Aaron stated, we approved a number of these to bring them into compliance. It makes sense.
I would agree.
This is Jim. Aaron, has there been soil borings done for the drain field?
Yes, we require that for the approval of any septic permit, as was
Okay.
stated in the building inspector has already reviewed the permit, and this would be acceptable as long as the variance passes.
Okay, I was just wondering, I didn't see anything on that. I just wanted to make sure the borings were done. Great, thanks. I agree.
Anyone else?
Glenn, I'll make the motion this is Wanda, to approve the variance at 167 Juniper Street with the conditions as stated by staff.
I'll second that.
All right, so Wanda made the motion, Glenn seconded it, then Sherry,
Aye.
Sharon,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Daryl.
Aye.
Great. Motion passes, goes to council July 13th. Next item, public hearing, concept plan and plat for the southwest corner of 209 Avenue and Highway 65 by the Stone Group LLC.
All right, can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes, we
You
can hear you.
me? Okay, all right. So Stone Group LLC submitted a concept plan for a plat that's located in the southwest corner of 209th Avenue Northeast and Highway 65. This plat contains 2 buildable commercial lots. Let me bring this up here. So 2 buildable commercial lots. We have one right here, one right here. And then 3 unbuildable outlots. So here's the outlot, outlot, and outlot. City code states that outlots are deemed unbuildable and no building permits will be issued for such properties until the outlot status is removed by city council upon demonstration that the intended use complies with the provisions in city code. So with this property, it's a bit unique. We do have split zoning on it, as you can see right here. So zoning of the property specifically dictates what types of businesses and residential types are allowed on the parcels. So on here, you have the eastern portion of the property is zoned B2 Central Business, which allows uses associated with general shopping. Exterior storage is limited to 100 square feet with a CUP, so you're not going to see uses in this area that have exterior storage. It's more, again, kind of general retail shopping. And then on the western portion of the property, we have, right now it's zoned R2, single family townhome. Lot size is determined by municipal sewer and water. And because it does not have sewer and water, minimums right now is 1 unit per 10 acres. If sewer and water was available, it would be 4 to 6 units per acre allowed. Once the 2040 comprehensive plan is formally adopted, the Met Council board is taking a look at it now. So we're hoping by the end of the summer for sure to have it formally adopted by our city council. The allowable density units for this property would change to 4 to 12 units per acre, but that's only if sewer and water were available for the property. So a little bit of discussions with Metropolitan Council. We have talked with Metropolitan Council if potential that lots could get smaller here on the western portion of it, and it possibly could be reduced to 1 unit per 2.5 acres without sewer and water. So that is the highest density right now that you would see on that property would be 2.5 acre lots. For this to happen, though, staff does need to monitor all the approved residential plats, and we have to ensure a citywide overall density that equals 1 unit per 10 acres in areas which are slated for sewer and water in the proposed future. That's just something that I do every year. I have to do a report for Met Council just to make sure that we're meeting our overall density requirements. So access to the property is off of MnDOT Highway 65. Therefore, the developer is required to submit the preliminary plat to MnDOT for review and comments. The developer is required to comply with MnDOT requirements, and MnDOT comments are required to be submitted to the city prior to the approval of the preliminary plat. Lot requirements, city code requires a lot width of 300 feet at the front yard setback. So we have lot 1, block 2, which is this one right here. It appears to not meet the width requirement, so the developer will need to verify the lot widths of 300, oops, I have 330 feet, sorry, of 300 feet or adjust the property line so it meets city code. So the next step in this process is that after commission and city council provide the informal comments to the developer will submit the preliminary plat. Information that will need to be submitted at that time isn't limited, but it does include the following. We need a, grading and drainage, erosion control, street lighting plan. Once the review of the preliminary plat is completed, then a public hearing will be scheduled. At this point, we're tentatively thinking of the public hearing would be held at the end of July. So at this time, the Planning Commission is required to hold the public hearing, gather input, and make informal recommendations to the developer regarding the proposed plat. So the applicant, Kim Erickson, is on the phone this evening. I'm not sure if the engineer is, who's Kyle Roddy.
Before we start the public hearing,
Go ahead.
I wanted to clarify, did you say that the access to these properties would be off of Highway 65? And
Yes, the main entrance to the development is off of Highway 65. And then there is an existing road here already. I believe it's Johnson Street. That's already in. However, but the main highway entrances off of Highway 65.
Right, but the entrance to the businesses would be off the frontage road, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yes, but because it's taking access off of Highway 65, MnDOT is still required to review it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
At this point, I'll open the public hearing to any interested community members. Please state your name and address for the record if you have a comment.
I'm Kim Erickson. My address is 33541 Cobalt Circle, Northwest, Cambridge, Minnesota, 55008. And I do believe that Kyle Roddy is on the line. And Kyle has been working with us and the buyer for the northeast parcel that we're proposing here. And I think it would be best if he spoke on behalf of both of us.
Yeah, I am online. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we've got the proposed lot in the northeast corner for a retail store, and then the other lot 1, block 2, is just going to be another commercial business lot. Sounds like the width of that lot is at 230 feet right now. If we have to widen that out, there's plenty of room to widen that out. There are some existing easements on the property, an existing fiber optic easement, and some city ponding and drainage utility easements and things like that are shown on this version and will be on the preliminary plat, the final plat. And we will, once we get approval on the concept plan, we'll submit that for their comment on the access. But it is, like you mentioned, it is an existing access, 209th off Highway 65, and Johnson Street is also existing. So there's actually, for splitting the two buildable lots off, there's no construction being proposed. The construction would be after the plat is recorded. Then individual construction on the commercial lots is what would be the only construction that's being proposed.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and open up for internal discussion.
So this is Tom. Will this eventually connect to the street that's behind the Pat's small engine? Is that in the plan, or that's a bit further down the road, isn't it?
Yeah, at this time, there's no plans to extend any of the existing streets.
Tom, this is Jack. As far as long-range plans go, at the end, the southern side of this plat, this street will eventually go down to approximately where U Puller Auto Parts Hunters Inn is located and connect back to Highway 65 at that point. And going north, which is actually off the side, this street will eventually connect back up with Sims Road.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. This is Wanda. I have a question with I guess for the Stone Group, with the type of businesses you are planning on putting in there, what type of traffic, if you can estimate, would there be going on or off of 65?
This is, we have a buyer, and Kyle, are we not disclosing for this purpose who the buyer is for this meeting?
I guess I wasn't intentionally not disclosing. I'm not
Okay.
sure if you should or not, but
Okay, the buyer, I believe staff is well aware, so I assume I should feel free to disclose this. The buyer for the that northeast parcel is Dollar General. It is being built by or purchased and developed by Overland Group. So that is the only parcel that we have a purchase agreement on. The rest of it is determined, who steps up and is wanting to buy these parcels as time goes forward. But Dollar General is anxious to get started, as are, and I think it would be a good addition to this community and to this stretch of Highway 65, that, and particularly retail that has a food component at this time.
Thank you for disclosing that. I have no further comments.
So that would be $2 Generals coming in two different locations. Or I don't know if the other one is Dollar General or Dollar Store or
Family Dollar.
Well, it's Dollar General.
It's a Dollar General.
General.
That's down off of Viking Boulevard, though.
Right. Different, both would be drawing from different areas.
Very much so, drawing from different areas.
It's just interesting because that's a need that we've had in the community being filled, but now doubled.
Mm-hmm.
But that does give you an idea of the traffic that might be generated.
That's my main concern. You know how 65 is, and the more ons and offs you have that aren't regulated by lights there, the more problems we seem to have. Eventually, it won't be a problem because it'll connect, but right now, it's just coming straight on to 65.
Yep, and that's the important reason why MnDOT is required to take a look at it and provide comments as well.
I'm seeing a right turn lane being required.
Right, that's what my question was just going to be too, if there's going to be a right turn lane, but I'm sure that MnDOT will be requiring that or not, whatever their needs are.
I believe the southbound Highway 65 does have a right turn lane right now onto 200. But yeah, it'll be up to MnDOT to determine whether the size and layout is up to.
Any other commentary? Are we taking any action, Stephanie, that requires a vote, or are we just adding comments to the mix?
Adding comments to the mix, yeah, just informal comments.
Well, it all seems to be in order and looking good. So I think we could move on to the next item.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this will be also heard at the July 13th City Council meeting. So, and then after City Council, just a heads up on this one as well. More than likely, you'll have the preliminary plat for this one at the end of July.
Okay, so there'll be more information coming sooner than
Yes.
later. Okay.
Yep, there will
Thank
be.
you. Thank you.
Do we have to have a motion on this to approve the split?
No, we're not approving the split right now. All you're doing right now is just taking a look at the concept plan and providing informal comments to the developer. So
Okay,
once
great.
it comes to preliminary plat, then you'll make your formal motions.
Okay, super.
Next item, number 10, is a site plan review for the expansion of a self-storage facility at 21217 Highway 65, owned by Gopher State Storage.
Yeah, so Gopher State Storage is requesting a site plan review for the expansion of the self-storage facility located at 21217 Highway 65. There are two buildings being proposed on the east side of the property. If you see my cursor here, each of those will be 5,700 square feet. And then there will be one larger building on the north side, which will be 5,000 square feet. The two on the east are slated to be constructed right away. The 5,000 square foot building up here is slated to be to be built at a different time. And the remaining of the property up here on the northern area is slated to be subdivided to create a new commercial lot at a later date. A little bit of background on this one. Gopher State Storage previously proposed an expansion of this facility. On October 14th of 2019, City Council denied the request. On January 13th of 2020, City Council held an administrative hearing at the request of the applicant, in which the City Council reversed their decision. And the meeting minutes are attached in your report for review. The City Council made a motion to allow the expansion to the east and to split the property to the north to create an additional commercial lot. So the site plan as it sits right now does reflect the discussions and approval by City Council to move forward in the review process. City staff did review the site plan. The city engineer provided comments on May 18th, and the applicant responded back on June 11th. Those are attached for your review. Staff is in the process of completing the most recently submitted plan. So at this time, city staff does support the configuration of the site and the landscaping plan. That was also attached in your report. The remaining outside items will not change the site plan, but will need to be satisfactorily addressed prior to the issuance of a building permit. It's mostly to do with city engineer, stormwater, that sort of thing. It doesn't affect the layout of the property. And the landscaping plan meets the requirements of the city code. If the plantings aren't completed by October 1st of this year, the applicant will be required to establish an escrow to ensure the plantings will be completed in 2021. As for the architectural design, the two buildings to the east, so these ones right here, are going to be constructed similar to the storage units that are in the process of being built on 241st and Highway 65. I have a building here, with the exception that the roof will be flat to match the existing structures on the site. Also, the colors will be similar to the existing buildings on the site, and the doors will face inward away from the street. And the northern building will be similar in construction to the existing building as well, with the doors facing inward away from Highway 65. So at this time, staff recommends the commission review the site plan and make a recommendation of approval to City Council with the conditions set forth in the resolution. And John Henry III is on the line. He's the property owner, to answer any questions you may have of him.
Yeah, hello everyone. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer anything you have.
Thank you. This one is not a public hearing, so any commission members can answer questions at this time.
This is Sherry. I have a question, Stephanie. So it just sounds like that they've gone back and done their homework and done everything that the city has requested that they do to bring this before us again for approval. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So they've done what we've asked them to do. Thank you.
Yes.
Stephanie and Jim Smith, are the two buildings to the east, are they kind of going to be lined up with the two existing buildings? The new buildings?
No, they are offset a little bit. One reason is because if you see my cursor here, they needed to meet a 60-foot setback from the residential property right here.
Okay, I can't see, but I can.
Okay,
I got
yeah.
your drawing.
Yep, and they have stormwater drainage in between the building and the residential property as well.
Okay, is there going to be quite a space between the two new ones and the existing?
Yes, there is. Yes.
Okay. I see there's like some kind of trailers behind the two buildings, if I'm looking at it right.
Yes, the trailers will be gone.
Okay, okay. Great, thanks.
Stephanie, wasn't that the big issue to start with, was the setback to the residential?
Yes, it was. Yep. And then also having access off of Davenport.
Okay.
That's
All right.
everything's been taken care of.
Stephanie, Jim Smith again. Is there going to be an access off of Davenport then with the new buildings?
Yes, there is.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks.
Yeah. Yep.
Glenn, if there's nothing else, I'll make the motion to approve the site plan with the conditions as stated by staff.
I'll second that.
Jim Smith, I'll second.
Okay. I'll defer to Jim for the second.
Okay, so Wanda made the motion, Jim second. Glenn?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Motion passes. Going to council on July 13th. Next item would be any updates from staff?
Just a quick one from me before Councilmember Harrington gives a council update. The city or planning commission will have a meeting on July 28th. And as of right now, we have 4 agenda items. So it's going to be another full agenda.
Good evening, Planning Commission members. I got a short report here. The City Council approved an ACD rain garden project for 4417 Channel Lane. We approved the site plan for Dollar General. It was a 3-2 vote, but it went through. And we approved the preparedness plan for protocols for reopening the city hall. That is screening for employees exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19, hygiene and respiratory adequate practices for social distancing, housekeeping, communications, and training. And Monday night, we approved the Parks Capital Improvement Projects for 21 through 2025. We approved the 181st Avenue Reconstruction Joint Powers Agreement with Ham Lake. Because half that road's Ham Lake and half East Bethel. They're going to do that next year. And then finally, we called a special meeting for June 29th for TIF information meeting for East Bethel Village Apartments Phase 2. And that's all I've got.
Great. Thank you. Any other updates or news items?
I just want to say thanks for doing that, Glenn. I'm in the middle of nowhere. And I'm upside down or sideways, but at least I'm here.
Yeah.
Good to have you. Did you have something? Yeah. Oh, guess not. All right, we are at that point where a motion to adjourn might be in order.
I'll make
So
it.
moved.
Second,
Wanda, I beat you to it.
I'll second that.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, Sherry made the motion, Glenn seconded it. We have Sharon.
Aye.
Tom,